Evening, people. Evening. That's intros when we had a proper football team. Actually won stuff, but Shane, how you doing, my friend?
All good, man. All good. Considering that match the way it went, but I expected us to lose, to be fair. But apart from that, all good, man. Can't complain. Weather was nice today. Got bits and pieces done, and can't complain. Really, I've sort of switched off from Arsenal now, so it doesn't really hurt that much when they put in a performance like that. But I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk about what's wrong with this club and whatever else we can come up with. But glad to be here, and cheers for having me on, Jez.
Always, man. Always. As I was saying to you backstage, your stream's going very, very nicely. With your breakfast shows, I think they're class. I do watch them, and big up to you, my friend. Anyway,
cheers.
Big up Carl as well in the chat. If you want to join Carl, you're more than welcome. Just let me know, and I'll send you the link. No worries at all. Big up DJ Crane, 2-2 in the end. Could have gone either way. Arsenal could have nicked it. Liverpool nearly nicked it at the end, but it was, pushing the face to Skelly. So that was obviously going to be, and it was an offside anyway. So but we went very quickly, Shane. 2-0 down. Not good. Our defence looked absolutely disarray. What was Ben White doing? Player sneaks in behind him. He didn't even see him.
It was unbelievable. Schoolboy, but that's schoolboy defending is all I can say. They were just stagnant. Ben White and Odegaard then just stood off to the side, not closing them down. Kivior looks like a lost boy out there. I mean, everybody was going on about the Madrid game, but as I said at the time, they're getting so carried away because this guy's had one good game that he will get found out soon, and Skelly will get found out soon. And Skelly's a great player, but he's not a left back. And he's just a kid. Like you said before that PSG game, and I saw it as well when you saw him in the tunnel, he looked terrified, absolutely terrified, because he knows that any mistake he makes when he comes into midfield is going to get punished. And Lee summed it up pretty well today about that match. He said, if you want to explain our whole season, just look at that match. Giving away silly goals, red cards. I mean, Marino could have got a straight red for that tackle. People can't complain about that. That was just a guaranteed second yellow. Nwaneri sitting on the bench, he's still getting punished. If the rumours are true that he turned up late for training or he missed training, surely his punishment is up now. When does it stop? Do you just punish him forever? A 17-year-old kid? What were most of us doing at 17? You know what I mean? There's no man management there. No man management whatsoever there. He's punished them enough. He's bringing on we had 4 left backs on at the end, and Nwaneri sitting on the bench. It's gone beyond a joke now, and if people can't see it, I mean I think that's the most frustrating part for me, Jez, is that I woke up after the PSG game and I was still angry and all that sort of stuff and depressed and we lost and blah blah blah. It was the day after when I was looking through Sky and they're all praising Arteta that I kind of went, come on, man. I mean, really, if the mainstream media aren't going to get in his back, he's going to keep getting away with it. We watched that press conference. We went through the press conference at Northside. It was just agony going through it. It's agony going through it because you're just sitting there watching a lunatic. You know what I mean? And he just thinks that whatever he says is true. If he gets pushed a little bit, he reacts. And that game, it just sums up everything that's wrong with us. We were weak, no creativity, reacting at just when it's too late. You know what I mean? Start playing a few true balls when it's too late. Martinelli started making a few runs. He was the only one that could really. Martinelli played all right, man. He was making a few runs. Odegaard was garbage again, but he took a few long shots, and look what happens. A goal comes from one of them. You know, so all of the things that are wrong with our season were there. Too many left backs. And the amazing thing is with all these left backs, is apparently we need to sign one in the summer. It's insanity to me. We need to sign a keeper. All the keepers we've signed. We need to sign we've signed in a holding midfielder. Apparently, people said, "Oh, he took us out of the banter era." Arteta took us out of the banter era. We're more of a joke now than we were before he came. We're more of a joke now with his silly press conferences, with his comments like we're the best team in Europe and all these sort of things. I think we're much more of a joke now than we were when he took over. And in fact, we're in a worse place financially. The squad's worse off. People say, oh, there was too many players on big wage. We had a player on 350 grand a week and we had a player on 300 grand a week. Okay, but one of them was Aubameyang, who's a Golden Boot winner, and one of them was Ozil, who's a World Cup winner. Our two biggest paid players now are Havertz and Jesus. Two players that wouldn't even have gotten that team. You know what I mean? So when I look at it and people are saying, look what he's taken us from, that's another one that winds me up, because this is where he's taken us. That game there is where he's taken us, where we're spineless. And We got two quick goals together in the second half when Liverpool were sort of cruising. When they decided then they're going to put their foot in the pedal, we ended up getting a player sent off. So they'll come out now and they'll say referees and they'll say, oh, small margins and all the usual stuff. And the press will eat it up. And I'll finish on this because it is, and I've said it already, what's bothering me the most is this thing that the mainstream media aren't even coming close to criticising. I've never seen a manager for any team, especially a top team, get this much protection. I do not understand it. It boggles my mind. And I don't know if they fall for his politician act or if it's just some, I can't explain it. And it really is starting to get to me now that we still feel like the minority, no matter, even though everything that we've said will go wrong has gone wrong. You know, Rice is out again injured. You know, he's been injured for a while. I've said for ages he's been injured for a while. Timber's been injured for months. For months he's been injured. Oh, so then the second we go out, Rice, oh yeah. And then they ask him, so what's the injury? Oh, the doctors, guys, they'll tell me, guys. And then, oh, he felt something against PSG. Why did he play the whole match then? He's been injured for a long time. If he played him on a broken toe, he has no qualms playing someone on an injury. The amount of operations we're going to get in the summer is going to be scandalous, absolutely scandalous. And I promise you, he won't get questioned on it. But to sum it up, that match, I mean, it was a nothing game. Liverpool could have easily steamrolled us when they went 2-0 up. They took their foot off the pedal. If they hadn't taken their foot off the pedal, we were gone. I could have seen 4 or 5 going in. But, I mean, it meant nothing. It meant something to him. He wants to get second. But if Newcastle beat us now, they're second. And what will he say then? He won't have his precious second place. But, yeah, as you can see, I'm not happy. But it's just yet another kick in the teeth from this club. And like you said when we were coming on, Jez, when you were showing all those goals, back when we used to be a good team, there's not one player in this team that would get close to that team. Not one of them would even get in the bench. And that's how bad things have gone. But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's a fair comment, man. Very quick answer to this question to Dublin Steve. For me, my favourite Arsenal Irish player's got to be Liam Brady. Yeah. Absolute legend myself. Kenny Ken. How you doing, my friend? You saw that shit show? Very quickly.
It was a tale of two football. It was a tale of two halves. But as Shane said, Liverpool very much dictated how we played and how they played. We actually started off quite well. Then when Liverpool got in amongst us, dragged our players out of position like we knew they were going to do. They actually murdered us. They murdered us. Gakpo's goal was just a joke. It wasn't even a funny one because it's the way they were all just ball watching, quick cross, goal. And then the second goal was even laughable because that's how teams have been playing against us. And then only Liverpool know why they didn't go for the kill. If they came out in the second half and went for the kill, we would have obliged them. But they hesitated and we came back into it. But it's all to no avail, man, because at the end of the day, I wasn't shocked that Declan Rice was going to be rested. I don't know if he's got an injury, but I wouldn't surprise he's been playing with injury all season. Because Saka gave his all, he's playing himself back in a form. Trossard improved after I don't even know what he was doing. The same with Martinelli, but just begs the question, really and truly, is that a lot of people have been asking a question about Nwaneri, that he can't seem to get a look in the team, and I understand, and I've agreed with the decision initially to leave him out after the Brentford game where he was basically ball watching all the time. But sometimes, man, it's a step too far. You think about it. We're trying to win. It's 2-2. We're thinking of winning the game, and look who you're bringing on. You're bringing on defenders again. When Liverpool were not really at it, not really seemingly, like I said, on the beach, and then you don't bring someone who could do something that can create something out of nothing. It's a shame. It really is a shame. But you know what it is that ironically, Odegaard actually had a much more improved performance. But we've been in this road with a lot of our players over the years, with Arsene, Unai as well. When the pressure's off, it goes two ways. Either we fold or we look $1 million. And I think in the second half, we looked $1 million. Can you imagine that was how we would have played if that was a 6-pointer? Who knows? Because everyone says that we're great under pressure, we're great at dealing with the big moments. Well, an elite team, if they really, really wanted to, could have smashed us out of water and we'd have had no complaints. No complaints whatsoever. In fact, their manager is probably giving a rocket in the dressing room for allowing us to get back into it. Because even though we've won the league, say they've won the league, they let us off today, and we kind of capitalised. But yeah, it's a Pyrrhic victory. It's a Pyrrhic victory for me. Damage has been done the last few weeks. Damage was being done from the first kick of the ball that was kicked in the season, and it's a case of too little, too late. Point to point, we got this record against Liverpool. They haven't beaten us for 3 years, but at the end of the day, in those 3 years, how much has Liverpool won? How much have we won?
Exactly. That's the point, mate. That is exactly summed it all up. I mean, we can go on about it, but I've got a question to ask you. I'll come to you first, Shane, on this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That second goal Liverpool scored. Once again, Raya is dragged out of position, right? I don't know. I just think of late, this is a tactic. I just think he's dropped down the scale a little bit. This is not the first time this has happened. This is 3 or 4 times now. And I don't like what I see. I think he's a great goalkeeper. Don't get me wrong. But why does he keep doing this? And, he does that. The defence is nowhere, right? And it's a walk-in goal. I don't understand what this is about now. I don't get it, because I hope this gets stopped very quickly. If this is an Arteta tactic, it's a bloody shit one. Let's get it right. Give me your view, my friend.
Yeah, well, the thing with Raya is we have to also remember that the first sort of 2 months that he was in goals, he was a shambles as well. Remember when he first came into the team, he was awful against Luton. He was making mistakes. He's making mistakes nearly every game. So he's had this great patch, and I do rate him as well as a keeper, but it is an Arteta tactic. It's definitely an Arteta tactic. He's playing at left back half the time. When we have the ball and he's coming out and he's nearly being caught. But even for the Liverpool goal that was disallowed at the end, his starting position was horrendous. He was on the far post and he had to dive into the middle of the goal to parry it out. So I do think it's Arteta trying to reinvent the wheel again. You know what I mean? He does these things, and then I was just saying on Lee's stream that the problem with him is not only does Arteta not learn from his mistakes, like he won't learn from this. When he starts getting criticism, he doubles down to try and prove a point, and say, no, don't tell me what to do. And I feel for the players, and Raya included. I feel for Martinelli and I feel for Saka that they can't give their all going forward because the tactics involve them having to track back for 80% of the game. They do more running backwards than they do forwards. And when Salah's coming out after Liverpool win the title, and what's the biggest difference with the tactics? Oh, he doesn't make me track back as much. And then you have the Arsenal fans on the other side saying, oh, they've been lucky because Salah hasn't got injured. Okay, but he's not being forced to track back. That's why he hasn't been injured. So with Raya, of course he is a keeper, I think, that will make the odd mistake. Not in Ramsdale territory now. He's not going to make sort of a mistake every 3 or 4 games. But I don't think he looks happy doing what he's being made to do. I think he'd rather there has to come a time when you set a team with tactics and then you let them sort of organically play. All the best teams do that. Like I said it with Inter, Inzaghi's got very strict tactics, but more so when they're defending. When they break forward, it's sort of, right, I'll give you freedom now. But Arteta's micromanaging so much that the players are sometimes terrified because they're being forced into positions and forced into tactics that they don't understand or they don't like, and they're being, he comes up with his tactics and his formation, and then he just tries to force players into the parts that don't fit. So with the Raya thing, the mistakes are coming again. Maybe he's a keeper that can't handle pressure. Maybe he's a keeper that doesn't like pressure. That would explain why he was so bad when he first came into the team. And the spotlight was, I've never seen this. Well, I've seen a spotlight like that on a keeper before, but it was intense because of the whole Arteta coming out and saying, oh, I've got 2 number 1s now. And he put far too much pressure on him and Ramsdale. And it nearly blew our season at the start of the season, actually. So maybe he's just a keeper that isn't very good with a lot of pressure. It might explain why it took him so long to get to where he is. He came through the lower leagues. Maybe he had a bit of a softer mentality when he was a young player and he didn't sort of break through for that reason. But whatever the case may be, I would put the blame of this, a lot of it, on Arteta, because he is forcing them to play in a system that I don't think suits him. I don't think so. He is good with the ball at his feet. He can do all that stuff, but I don't know. He's almost playing like a sweeper sometimes, and the thing with a keeper is it's not like a midfielder where if you make a little mistake, sometimes it can just go unnoticed because the game plays on. If he makes a mistake, it's there. It's a goal, you know. And I feel for him. And I'm with you, Jez. I do think he's a very good keeper, but maybe he does have a pressure thing. Maybe the pressure gets to him too much when it really counts, and it would explain why he was bad at the start. But yeah, I think it's a mix of both. I
didn't see him doing that tactic last year, or whatever you want to call it. JD2378 says, "What do you think about the game?" Well, we were pretty poor in the first half. Liverpool even as bad in the second half. It was a typical, the iconic old saying, "Game of two halves." You know, Liverpool came out, went to sleep. Lovely goal from Martinelli and Marino getting the equaliser. We could have nicked it at the end. Liverpool could have nicked it at the end, but it's one of them games. It's a point, but it means nothing at the end of the day. Big up Wolfie. Go and support Wolfie, Fang Division man. Great show and views on sport. Great channels as always. But the thing is, Kenny, I think today highlighted. I know it's the end of the season. It means nothing to really get anywhere at all, but it does mean, as we all get told by the top supposed gooners, right, that it's to cement second place. Well, that might not happen. We might end up third.
Yeah, we've dropped a lot of points since. To be honest, since the West Ham game, we've dropped a lot of points. The performances have gone down. You know, the games we've won, it's been shocking to watch. It hasn't been enjoyable to watch. Chelsea was just a game where universally everyone just was, both Arsenal, Chelsea fans just felt the same way, that it was an insult to football. It was an insult to derby matches. The Fulham game was just as bad. And, you know, there's just been draws, with the odd defeat against Bournemouth. Performances haven't been great at all. Yeah, but in terms of where we are now, where we could finish, it depends. Well, Newcastle got nothing to lose. They got the cup they want, but they really want the Champions League. They want to do the double over us. You know, they looked, part of their performance against Chelsea. What Chelsea came into the game really, really, really well in the second half, despite being going to 10 men. But Newcastle always had that extra man and always had that sort of je ne sais quoi. So, come to Arsenal. Are Arsenal going to put on a really bad show in front of their fans last game of the season? I wouldn't put it past us.
No.
I wouldn't put it past us. I remember being at Brighton, at the Arsenal-Brighton game in 2019. A game where we could have secured the top four. What happened? Xhaka gives away a penalty. Murray scores the penalty, 1-1. Fans just left at the end of the stadium, didn't even stay for the parade. Same thing can happen next week. But at the moment, the reason why people within the club would like to secure second place, because they want to keep this sort of fallacy that, you know, that we're in a good place because we finished third consecutively. But let's not remember, you only celebrate second place when you're close to winning something, when you pushed it to the last day of the season, which we did in last season. We didn't do it the season before. Man City won the league without kicking a ball the season before. Last season, we took it to the last day, but let's face it, it was always Man City to lose. So was that really close? We made it close for Man City because we lost against Villa. So one of those things we need to understand is that we are in danger of getting second place because of what you saw today. You know, Declan Rice is probably going to be out next week. Marino's going to be out because he's suspended. Who are you going to play in midfield? You know, you're going to rack your brains. You're going to play in midfield, and then is he going to just bite the bullet and play Nwaneri? We just don't know with Mikel. You never know with Mikel. But one thing you do know at home, at the Emirates, teams love playing against us at the Emirates. because they know that if they weather the storm, then what will happen is that they got someone who can put the ball in the back of the net. They equalise, and then they get a second goal. We're all over the place. So yeah, it is in jeopardy. And to be honest, I would like seventh place for pride, but at the end of the day, it's still another season without silverware, which is the most important thing that we need to talk about.
True. Thomas Ken says, "Is Arteta your worst manager in history?" For me, yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of managers at Arsenal in my years of supporting, and this guy is the worst I've ever seen. He will not change his attitude. He is just a narcissist. As Hen Jetty says, Arteta is an incompetent narcissist with all the time and money in the world. And with fans accepting not winning anything, we are stuck with this arrogant bastard. Yeah, well,
he's at the right club, Jez. He's at the right club.
Yeah.
Of the way we are as a club, we're not a sacking club, and we like to give managers time. So, Arsenal's perfect. Arsenal's perfect. We talk the talk. We don't walk the walk when it comes to actually going after silverware. We always put ourselves in contention for silverware, but when the silverware doesn't come, we lower our standards and start talking about, well, we get in the Champions League or we've pushed Man City close. That's Arsenal Football Club for him. The reason why Arteta gets so much love, because the biggest fallacy in football at the moment, well, Billy Wright, Arteta's better than Billy Wright on the basis that because of where we finished in the league and because of the standards. But Billy Wright was a better player than Arteta, SG. One of the greatest players to ever lace a shirt, especially England. He was Bobby Moore before Bobby Moore married a Beverley sister. But as a manager, Arsenal from 1962 to 66, well, just weren't good enough. Even though we had some really good players like George Eastman, Joe Baker, born in Liverpool but brought up in Scotland, great players, and we had start of a good youth setup. But the manager just wasn't good enough. But in terms of the reason why Arteta gets the flowers, get back to my point, people think that we're Man City's rivals. Well, where I come from, you can only be a rival of the best team in the country or the best team in Europe if you take trophies off them. Since Pep's come to Man City, Liverpool have been the ones who've been taking trophies off City. They've won 2 leagues. We haven't won a league. They've won the FA Cup. We've only won 1 FA Cup. They've won 2 League Cups, and they've been to 3 Champions League finals, winning the Champions League, and they've also won the Cup Cup, and they've won the World Club Championship. Now, that's a rivalry. We just push Man City, and I use that term loosely. We push them. We are not their rivals until we take a league title of them and continue to take trophies from them. We are only a noisy neighbour.
True. Just answer this little prick. Top ranking. The reason your channel is not growing while you are old is saying itself. Shame on you. Well, my channel is growing, mate. I went up 140 subs this week. So you've got to get your facts right, my friend. You hate Arteta for nothing. I don't hate Arteta. I don't think he's good enough to be our manager. Simple as that. The fact remains, he hasn't won anything. So you are obviously a very young little person who accepts failure. And that's basically what your life is going to be about. You'll accept failure.
Someone's in a Datsun. Someone's in a Datsun.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, big up, Nolsky. How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm mute, Nolsky.
Sorry about that, people. Yeah, but just so I could answer your call earlier on, man. I was on the road, man. So I could answer. As soon as I saw it, I thought, yeah, man, I got to be on, bro. You know what I mean? The first time I think I've been on with Kenny Ken. Chat with him always in the chat. But it's good to be on. Big up to Shane every time. You know how it goes. You know what I mean? The Bruised Banana. And thanks for having me on, Jez. And big up to the chat as well. Yeah, people. What can we say? Yeah.
Well,
have a draw.
Yeah. Why all the negativity? Arteta's been fantastic this season. Arteta is the greatest manager in the world football. Really? Okay.
That's sarcasm, I think, Jez. I think they may have to be sarcastic there.
I love it. Big up, Wolfie. Thanks for your super chat, my friend. Question to the panel. If Spurs win a trophy, you guys don't, with Newcastle winning as well, does Mikel justify his job anymore? I'm going to come to Normski first, as you just joined, my friend. Thank you to Wolfie. What do you think of that one? If Tottenham win a trophy, God, dear God.
This manager should have never even got a job with us. So, you know what my answer is no, he doesn't deserve it. You know, we're 6 years in almost, and this is what we got to show for it. And, you know, in a few weeks' time, you know, if Tottenham ends up winning that trophy, you know, that's another European Cup that they will win. And, you know, it means that they would have had a successful season because they will end up in a Champions League position. Yeah, although they've just, you know, lost their 20th match this season, but still they're going to be, you know, lifting a trophy potentially. And we're here, you know, fighting out for second place, which I just feel was just not good enough. We have fell so far behind Liverpool, and just in terms of what we've done over the last couple of years, we have stagnated. And, you know, Arteta, you know, he's come out after that, you know, after the PSG game, said that we're the best, you know, league team in the Europe. For beggars belief, mate, because from what I saw in the first half of the Liverpool game, we were miles off. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, they took their foot off the gas. You know, we get back in the game, make it 2-2. And, you know, I think he was thankful, do you know what I mean, that we came out of Liverpool with our 14th draw of the season, 15 points behind them. We now face Newcastle next Sunday, Super Sunday. That is a massive game because they're only 2 points behind us. And if we end up losing that game, we've not beaten them this season. If we end up losing that game, you know, Newcastle will go above us. And then we go to Southampton. They'll play a low block against us, get a draw, and we'll probably end up finishing third or fourth.
Same question to you, Shane.
Yeah.
Newcastle have won the League Cup, as you want to call it. Spurs potentially could win a trophy, finish way below us, and we rock up with absolutely nothing again. So, who's the better team? Spurs?
Yeah, sorry, just no, the Spurs aren't the better team, but they've had a better season. They've had a better season. If they win a trophy, they've had a better season. They're going to get Champions League. You know what I mean? Like, of course, we say 20 losses, we can stay all that. And yes, we would finish ahead of them next season. But yeah, to me, if you win a trophy, now if they were doing that every year, you might look at it differently. But you know, when I put this question to a gal, when I said, like, hypothetically, would you rather finish second every year and never win a cup, never win an FA Cup, or never win anything, or finish 8th every year and win either the FA Cup or the League Cup every year? And he said he'd rather finish second. So I mean, that to me is just insanity, because you know, there's even with the manager thing, when people are putting up there about, you know, Don Howe, when we were saying about the worst manager, and Bruce Rioch and all this, but you have to look at it as well I'll use an Arteta phrase, in context. You know, the money Arteta's being given, the time he's being given, where the club is at the moment. You can't compare that to the Don Howe era, or you can't compare that to the Terry Neal era. You can't. It's not fair to do that, because it was a completely different thing. We were just selling every player. We weren't signing many players. You know, I mean, he had to rely on youth, and luckily enough, there was the David O'Leary's and the Liam Brady's and stuff like that coming through the youth system. But to be given all the resources that Arteta's being given, and the way he sort of made us into a laughing stock and stuff like that, you have to take it as a whole. You have to take it as a whole. So I don't really agree with that. Bruce Rioch finished 5th in this one and only season. People say, oh yeah, and he signed Bergkamp, but that was all David Dean for me. I don't think Rioch had anything to do with that. Maybe I'm just being hard on him, but I don't think he had anything to do with it. But he still finished 5th. But yeah, look, to get back to your original question, if Tottenham win a trophy, then it has to be. It doesn't have to be. It's a European trophy. No, it's not the big one. But I mean, I would have bitten your hand off this season to win a European trophy, even if it was a Europa League. I would have taken a Carling Cup at the start of the season, or whatever it's called now, the Carabao Cup. I just call it the League Cup normally. I would have taken that at the start of the season. And funnily enough, us so-called negative fans were saying at the start of the season, or me and a lot of us were saying, if Arteta even wins the Carabao Cup, then I'll give him another year, because it's a trophy and it'll show that we can get over the line. It was the other ones saying, "Oh no, that's not good enough. If he only wins that, I don't want him." So for me, yeah, if Tottenham win the Europa League, of course they are. They're going to get a parade. They're going to celebrate. They have a trophy. They're in the Champions League. I mean, all we've got is the Champions League. So to me, trophy, Champions League, or just qualify for the Champions League. I take a trophy and qualify for the Champions League every day of the week. And I'll just finish on this as well, just to say how, because this to me reflects our club. If they do win the Europa League, I'm not saying this will happen, but I think there would still be more chance of them sacking their manager than us sacking our manager.
Definitely.
And that to me is the most damning thing about our club.
True. Kenny, same question to you. If we've won nothing again.
Real Arsenal fans, when I look at Newcastle, for instance, one thing is more important than anything else. Not only Newcastle finally got the sort of like the question off their back, i.e. winning a trophy, they're a good team as well. Very good team and good players. And eventually they'll get the better of PSI, and then they've got the potential to leave us behind. So they've had a fantastic season. They're potentially going to do the double over us. Yeah, we'll finish higher than them. Yes, on paper we got a better team than them, but you could argue they got better individuals than us. And those individuals have won the trophy. They got a match winner in our good friend Isak. 20 goals or more a season for the second season in a row. Can't argue with that. And that last season they were nowhere near where they are this season. So they've had a much better season than ours. And Arsenal fans know this. They can berate the Carabao Cup all they like, but you don't kid anyone. You can hide behind the modern fans who say that it's only 2 trophies. No, mate. The only clubs that got a right to say there's only 2 trophies that matter are Liverpool and Man United, because they've won these trophies, i.e. the Champions League and the league more recently than we have. They've got a right to say Arsenal haven't. Start winning trophies on a regular basis, then you can put all these trophies in the hierarchy if you must. But the most important thing about Tottenham is that real Arsenal fans should be ashamed of our record in Europe. We don't care that the fact that Spurs are in the Champions League, the Europa League final. We don't care about that. We don't want to be in that. No Arsenal fan wants to be in that tournament above the Champions League. What we care about is that they've got a better pedigree than us in Europe. And they won a trophy in Europe for 41 years. Penalties. Anderlecht.
True.
I was old enough to remember that. 12 years old, an Arsenal fan. 5th year of not winning anything, watching that lot parade a European trophy on my doorstep in Freezy Park. Yeah. I hated that.
Yeah.
I hated that. I'm still around the North London area. In fact, one of my properties is on the Islington Haringey border. I'm gonna have to watch that. The potential watch Spurs fans potentially parade a trophy. In fact, my good friend Robert Sees, a Tottenham fans watching this. 6 years ago, I didn't really know there were any Spurs fans about. But as soon as they got to the Champions League final, you guys came out all out of the woodwork. You're in the Europa League final, you're coming all out of the woodwork. But most importantly, Spurs will brag about it, and they should do, because despite the fact we're a bigger club than them, they've won more in Europe. And if I was a Spurs fan, I'll rub it in Arsenal fans' face. People like Lyle and his merry men can say, well, you can't really take the Europa League seriously because we're not in it. That shows how little he knows about our history. That shows how little he cares about our history. That shows how little he cares about the rivalry, and just shows what he's a businessman. Because if he was a proper gooner, he would have thought about that and thought, you know what? We're meant to be a big club, but our record in Europe is a joke. That's why I was upset when we went out on Wednesday. I wasn't just upset because we went out, because it's another year without European success. As I said last season it was 30 years without European silverware, and now it's 31 and counting.
Forest are back in it, mate.
Exactly. How can you call yourself a big club if if you're not winning European trophies, you have to win in Europe to be one of the clubs. You know, Chelsea have a right to be just think. All right, if you think I'm waffling, and I'm out of order, fine, I respect that. Just look at the club championships, the World Club Championships this summer. Chelsea are in it on the basis they won 2 European Cups. Man City are on it on the basis they won a European Cup 2 years ago. So these are all A-list clubs. Real Madrid are in it. They're all big. Are Chelsea a bigger club than Arsenal? Are Man City a bigger club than Arsenal? No, they're not. But they've won more European Cups than us. Not the Forest. They're bigger than Arsenal. Aston Villa bigger than Arsenal. A Celtic. No, they're not. But they've won the Champions League. We haven't won it.
Ipswich Town.
Ipswich Town, yeah.
Yeah, we're 2-1 on Ipswich Town, but we've won just as many European trophies as West Ham.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not good. Not for a club like. No, sorry. Big up Mike Green. My second club is Newport County. Even Jez, I'm sure you are with Arsenal. I'm done with Newport. New owners fucked us up. Yeah, you've had a shocker this season, man. Absolute shocker. But big up Mike. He's got his own channel. Go and subscribe to Mike Green. Lovely guy. Proper Newport County fan. I was talking to him months ago, and I used to, as a kid at Easter when I was a little kid, go with my other granddad who lived in Newport to the old Somerton Park ground in Newport. We used to get the bus up there to there. But yeah, big up Mike. Big up to you, my friend. Wolfgang says, big clubs win all trophies, no matter the size. True. Rat says, Jez, is this manager is here? Are you going to watch games next season? Well, I will always watch Arsenal, mate.
Yeah.
Not the manager. I watched the game today. I didn't watch the Guard of Honour purposely. I went out downstairs into the garden, so I couldn't hear it. I don't believe that we should be doing that. We should have won it. But respect to Liverpool for winning. Well done to them. They did it. We didn't. Alex Chapman says David Moyes and Roberto Martinez have the same amount of trophies as Arteta with West Ham and Wigan. You fuck me. When you say that, dear God. Anyway, let's get into the game. Let's get into this game, gentlemen. First half, we were shocking. What were we doing? Ben White went to sleep. Don't know what happened there. Great cross from Robertson. That ball, I think they thought was going out of play. Didn't happen. But Norsky, we were terrible in that first half.
Yeah, from what I caught of the game.
God,
yeah, no, from what I caught of the game, because I was kind of because I was out and about. So I did see the first goal, and I was thinking we was all at sea defensively. and then I think before I could even blink, the second goal was in. And I'm just looking at and thinking, and that's why I made mention earlier on about, I'll take to say now, all right, fair play. Liverpool went out, and didn't make the Champions League knockout stages or whatever. But, we are so far behind Liverpool. I mean, listen, they're on the beach, so I wasn't really expecting much from them, but still go out there and have a goal. Do you know what I mean? And the way we conceded that first goal, terrible, absolutely terrible. And then the second one, as I said, before I could even blink, Diaz, makes it 2-0. Our defense was again all over the place. Obviously, Ben White wasn't good today. Defensively was not good today. Skelly, getting caught out. Moreno, even though he got the goal, he looked like he was going to get a red card. I was looking at our chat on the chat that I'm on, and they were saying that Moreno was going to get sent off. And lo and behold, what happens? Second yellow card, rash tackle, and we have to hold on for that 2-2 draw. You know what I'm saying? And lucky enough, if it wasn't for Kanate, putting his hand in Skelly's face, because I don't know whether Robertson was offside because he looked quite close. I know everybody kind of put their hand up, but you know, obviously they gave it for the foul on Lewis Skelly. So, you know, we got away with it. We end up, you know, coming out the game with a 2-2 draw, our 40th draw of the season. You know, look how many points we've dropped there. And that was, as I say, that was definitely a second yellow for Moreno. He now misses, you know, the next game, which is Newcastle at home. And that's obviously going to be a tricky one because we haven't beaten Newcastle all season, as in they're currently 2 points behind us. So all in all, you know, our season is just being absolutely dross, if I may say so. We have never challenged whatsoever. You know, forget about, you know, the decisions that we've had against us and all the injuries and all the things that, you know, Arteta likes to pipe up about. Look, we was not good enough from the start, and that stems back. We go back to the transfer window, and just sort of just not changing the subject, but when you're talking about the trophies and that, I just don't understand why fans, you know, look at, you know, the minor trophies, so to speak, that it's beyond them, it's below them. You need to win a trophy to have that winning mentality. Pep had that. Jose Mourinho had that. So why can't we go in and try and win one of those trophies? Because at the start of the season, I was thinking, okay, we haven't done well in the window, so let's at least try and go for like a Carabao Cup. That's probably going to be one of the easiest ones we can go for. Well, we messed that up, and you know we lose to Newcastle on both legs. Didn't have a shot on goal. I think one shot on goal, and that was it. So yeah, in general, you know, today, first half was terrible. Second half, Liverpool took their foot off the gas. We came back into the game. Got the 2-2 draw, lucky to get away, you know, we're coming out the game, you know, losing it. So yeah, it's a story of our league campaign, you know what I mean? Draws after draws after draws, not good enough.
Facts. As Alex Chapman says there, gentlemen, it's sad to me as a once great club, you have the likes of Egal populating your fan base. Look, the thing is here, these fans have come along. They're not true Arsenal fans, right? They are what I call generic fans, right? They just go along with the get along gang, want to be popular. They're YouTube fans, right? And that's all they are. Shane, give me your view on that comment.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I'm 100% with you. The term I always use is they don't take it home with them, right? They're not worried before a match and they're not gutted after a match. They watch the match and then they switch off and they're done. All right. And they might claim different. They might say, no, you don't know me. That's not true. But you like, you know, we can have a chat here about, you know, Arsenal, and we can have a chat about like that about Bertie Mee and stuff like that. Like that was before my time, but I spent my whole childhood reading books about Arsenal. I spent my whole childhood watching VHS tapes about Arsenal. I had one video of George Graham when he was still manager, but I remember my dad got it from me when I was like 8, and it was George Graham picking his all-time 11 Arsenal, and they had that Liam Brady goal against Tottenham and stuff on it. Like I'd watch that every second day, over and over again. I'd learn my history. So you could ask them, and they say, "Well, I wasn't born." And you go, "Well, that's no excuse." You know what I mean? Do you know about World War II? Do you know about? You mean just because you weren't born doesn't mean that you can't educate yourself on it. But I'm with you. Listen, Gal, maybe he's a nice guy. I have no personal issue with him, or all those guys that are like that are just doing it for, like you said, they're YouTube fans. No matter what, they're like Arteta in that. No matter what you say, they have to go against it. You know what I mean? And they have to try and prove their point that way, and they get traction off it and all that sort of stuff. But they don't take it home with them. They like I've cried over football. I've been useless to be around if we've lost the game. You know what I mean? Arsenal lost. Our dad's gone up to the room again. He's in a bad mood, and and all that sort of stuff. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying it's that good to be that obsessed with it, but unfortunately, I am for better or for worse. So yeah, I'm with that. That I lost the plot now after the Bournemouth game. I did a reaction, and I was saying because Arteta won't give me answers as to why he picked the full 11. I want answers off them. I want answers off these fans that keep him in a job because they keep him in a job. So there's blood on their hands when this manager stays in a job because they're the majority, which still boggles my mind that they're the majority, no matter with what's been going on. But when they keep backing him, Arsenal have people hired, teams hired to scour the internet and find out what's the trend. Okay, they still like Arteta. right, keep them in. There's no pressure. Back in the day, it would have been all done outside the ground or in the ground. You know what I mean? You had to go face to face with the club and tell them how you feel. But because of these people, they keep him in a job. And I want answers off them, because to me, they're as much to blame as the board for keeping him in, because the board are only going by what the majority are saying. So regardless of how they are portraying us online, for me, it's more serious the damage they're causing by keeping this man in the club. That's where I get my anger towards them from. Do it for likes, all that sort of stuff. But you are damaging my club by keeping this manager in charge, because there's no other top club in Europe, in the world, that would have kept this man in charge. No other top club in the world would go 5 years without a trophy with the same manager. Even Spurs, who haven't won since 2008 when they won the League Cup, they still sack their manager every 2 or 3 years if he doesn't win something. They sacked Mourinho and Conte, 2 serial winners, because he didn't win with Tottenham. We've kept the same man in charge for 5 years, and it all comes back to these guys out there, the AFTVs and all those lads that keep this man in a job. And the blood, I'm going to repeat myself again, if Arteta is in charge next season, we will finish outside the top 5, and maybe by a long distance, regardless of who we sign. Oh, get him a striker. Doesn't matter. What would a striker do with the way we play? What would a striker do when you're not putting the ball in the box, when you're not playing through balls? There's no point. You can have anyone up there. It won't matter. So for me, they have to answer for this, because they keep him in a job. And that is where a lot of my sort of anger at the moment comes from. It is directed at them. So that's why I'm glad that question came up. So cheers to, I forgot the name and put it up, but cheers for that question. But that's my take on it, Jez. It winds me up. These fans, they absolutely wind me up.
Fact, I'll just do the super chat, and I'm going to come to Kenny on the same question. Big up, Mike, mate. Keep it real, Jez. I'm fed up with my club, Newport County. Yeah, the Ironsides, mate, have been shit this year. I'd still follow them. And it has been a pretty tough year. Kenny, mate, look, we've been on streams with people like Gal and his Christian and other people and whatever. And to me, Kenny, I respect them for their view, but I can't respect them for the love of the club, because they don't actually really. They're not real Arsenal fans, are they?
No, I think what's happened is that their position is that they've bought into sort of the mantra that everything was so bad before he came. They laughingly that apparently Nwaneri ruined everything, even though he was there for 18 months when the rot started with Arsene Wenger. So they will look at the fact that we weren't in the Champions League, we're getting thrashed 8-0, 6-0. So they're going to look at all sorts of positives. They're going to look at the fact that we're harder to beat. They're going to look at the fact that we've got a recognisable style to play. They're going to look at the fact that, all sort of things they're going to look at. These are the sort of things that Spurs were looking at under the Poch. The best defence, Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Saliba, Gabriel. Difficult to beat in the midfield, just like us. They had a strong midfield. They had goals in the side. We don't have as much goals as them, but no one messed around with Spurs. No one, bullied them on the field. That's the sort of things they love. That's what you got under the Poch. But the thing that's actually more serious than that is that these are guys with YouTube channels, and I believe subconsciously they see a pathway in order to get themselves in the mainstream. And I can tell you right now, this is a mainstream is what I call stroke the circle of trust, where these guys are told, and I know for a fact, they've been told that you ain't doing yourself any favours if you have this sort of stance against the club, if you have this stance against Arteta. I know one person, who was definitely told that. I know 2 people were definitely told that. And basically, if they don't follow a certain viewpoint, they won't get on the Premier League stories. They won't get on Sky Sports and ask for interviews. They won't get on TalkSport or Radio 5. In essence, they won't get any high-profile work. And this is a fact. I know how this works. I know this game because I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen situations where fans turn journalists, get access to the football club. And what happens when they get access to this football club is that they are one step away of being in a circle of trust. So basically, what happens? They get interviews at Arteta. They get shown around the club. They get let into certain secrets that the club think you should know. They won't tell you the whole thing, but they show you what they want you to show, i.e., that all or nothing documentary. And basically, what they're saying, right? Go and tell your friends. This is what's happened. Go and tell your friends that this player's come to the club, that we're getting a striker, that we're working really hard behind the scenes, that Edu's doing a great job, Mikel's working hard. Go and tell your friends what a great coach Mikel is. Go and tell your friends. And what they do, they duly oblige. Because basically, the club don't actually tell them to do that, but the club wants them to do that. So every time, they will say, this is happening, this manager's a great manager, this is what's going on behind the scenes. And basically, they're saying, we know. And they're basically messages on behalf of the club. So that's one of the reasons why they think that they will say things like 2 weeks ago, last week after the Bournemouth game, they came out with one thing, no sequitals. It was just basically a comment and left us with it to try and shut us up. But fortunately, a lot of fans don't have access to the club, don't want access. They just want to say it as it is. And we're going to look at trophies. And unfortunately for them, they knew that if we went out in Europe, there's going to be loads of podcasts like this, what we're doing now. There's going to be loads of, like phone-ins to mainstreams. There's going to be loads of people on Twitter coming out with questions about the board, questions about the manager, questions about the team. And they can't put a plaster on it. They can't stop the well. They can't stop the avalanche. They try to stop the avalanche by saying, we're in the know, we know better than you. You need to do as you're told. But we refused because we're not stupid, because we're different. We've all got jobs. We all own our own homes. This isn't their full-time job. This is a hobby. For them, it's their job. So we don't have to be friends with the club, friends with journalists. And that's the difference between us and people who get access to the club, i.e. former fans who are now journalists, and fans on the way up, like the two people you mentioned, in my opinion, who want to get to that level. They all follow the same pattern. Mm-hmm. Don't put the club down. Don't put the managers down. Don't question the players. Always follow the club line. So question referees, question VAR, and speak up about injuries and speak up about how unlucky we are. But always say Mikel's on the right lines. It's a party line, mate. It's a party manifesto, which these guys always go by. And it's all because their goal ultimately is to get a full-time job in the media representing the football club.
I think that you summed that up brilliantly. I mean, your sister from another mother. I mean, I've got respect for her, but she does sit on the fence, and you know who I'm talking about, Kenny. Nice lady, gets on Sky, says the right thing and everything. But you're quite correct in what you just said. These people are gunning for the sort of media lifestyle. And I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. I mean, it's just not going to come along. But yeah, big up Luca. Anyway, Nolsky, what's your opinion on this sort of thing? Because I think Kenny summed it up brilliantly in what he's saying, is that these people, they're not, in my opinion, and I'm pretty out there, and I get hate for it, and I don't care. I really don't give a shit. But these aren't real fans in my book. People like you, Kenny, Shane, been there. They've been through the trenches at games. We've been through the good times, the bad times, and at the moment we're going through the bad times again. But some of these fans, I actually question. They've never ever probably been to a game in their life. I'm not talking about Egal and all that. I know he has been, right? But there's a lot of these YouTubers, they've never been to a game in their life. They make themselves out to be top level Arsenal fans.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. Look, I mean, when I came into this game, 5 years ago, it was purely because you're just in there with your mates talking. I never had the intention to have a YouTube channel or anything like that, and it was about me just expressing my opinions on how I see my clubs and the standard that I want to see my clubs at. And I think the times that we're living in now, I mean, this social media world, people obviously are trying to get a name for themselves. But the problem is that some of them will drop their standards for £1 note. And unfortunately, there are big content creators out there that have done that and have sort of pandered to the club. And, they have to be careful what they say. They can't call the club out, you know what I mean? But, we're people here on this platform. We will put our, we're classed as negative fans or what you want to, whatever you want to call us. But it's more about us wanting the standards of our clubs to be back to where it was under the days of, the great days of Wenger, the great days of George Graham, where we was winning winning trophies, and we had those high standards. But as I said, we're living now in a society where social media dictates. Everybody, it's what's popular. So if say something comes out, everybody's going to go with that. We're going against the grain, and because we're going against the grain, we get called out for what it is. But I'm not going to change my values or my standards. There might be, I'm sometimes fighting against 5-6 people. So if you imagine, say one in every 5-6 Arsenal fan that wants standards for their clubs, we're having to now go up against these people who, unfortunately, people like Gal, who outside of probably out, it's like when when you work with somebody, outside of their job, they're absolutely fine. Once they're in their job, it's like they just turn into some type of mutant, and that's it for me. And I'm sometimes I'm just thinking, are they trolling or what? Because they cannot be saying things that actually believe what they're actually saying. Do you know what I mean? Am I seeing things? That's why the other day I put out a video, Matrix Convo. I'm going to be every now and again. I'm going to be having a listen to what's out there, and I'm gonna speak on it, because at the end of the day, these guys, they are in a different world. You know what I mean? What they see and what they do is like what you see that we're not seeing. Why is it that you need to give Arteta another 3 years or the end of his contract, or give him another year, give him more money because he hasn't been given the players? He's had five years, £750 million spent, and yet it's almost like they're saying that he only started the job last year and he wasn't given the money. We sound like scratch records. We're going to keep sounding like scratch records, unfortunately, because we want the standards of the club to go up. And unfortunately, these new content creators, those that live behind their keyboards and don't get to games, I mean, back in the day, did anybody ever talk about XG? Did anybody talk about field tilt?
Exactly.
No. You watch the game with your eyes, and XG doesn't win you games, because we might have had more XG than PSG, but it was in the final. PSG.
I don't need. Let's look. You've watched football as long as me, Kenny, right, and Jay. We've all watched football for a very, very long time combined. I don't need stats and facts and XGs and XDs and all this bullshit. I can tell a player that's playing well by watching him. I can tell a player that's playing shit by watching him.
Exactly.
Stats prove nothing.
Right.
You can manipulate statistics as much as you like.
Yeah.
It's a known fact. The government does it all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, in party politics. We're not going to get into that, but it doesn't prove F all. At the end of the day, what I watch is on TV or at the game with my own eyes.
Yeah.
And I know, oh, that guy's having a great game today, or that's a great pass, or this is that, and that's, he's done this, that. I don't need any of that. I don't need it, because I don't look at it, because it doesn't prove anything, nothing at all. I've got a couple of comments I think are worthy of actually. I think these are actually a good point. Talking about worst managers, Rioch. Well, my opinion on that one, and I'm going to come around the panel. Bruce Rioch never really had the chance, did he?
Exactly.
Not really. He didn't have the time, because a bit like Emery, they already had a manager lined up in the background. With Rioch, it was Wenger. But you have to give him credit. He brought in David Platt and he brought in Dennis Bergkamp.
We finished 5th as well, Jezza. We finished 5th that season. We'd finished a lot lower the season before, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, true. I mean, yeah, he never had the chance, really.
No.
Same as Don Howe. I mean, caretaker manager after Terry Neal went and Steve Burtonshaw. You know, I mean, it was all a bit parts, wasn't it, really? Be honest. Kenny, you know, Bruce Rioch didn't really get the opportunity, did he?
You're on mute, Ken.
But basically, the Bruce Rioch is a bit serious than that. I think what happened with Bruce Rioch is Tony Adams wasn't ready to support him. Tony Adams was going through his pub problems, his drink. He was active. He was a walking and living alcoholic who just basically got himself ready for football, and that was it. So he was no leader and no confidant for Bruce Rioch, because he wasn't able to mentally because of his drinking. I think that Bruce Rioch as well, he forgot that he was at Bolton. He forgot he was at Arsenal and thought he was still at Bolton Wanderers. And he pissed off the wrong person in Ian Wright.
Yeah,
and
that's the big one.
You know, Ian Wright got him out of the football club, but it wasn't just Ian Wright. The things he was saying, talking about, oh, at Bolton we do this and we did that. And he had players who, like John McGinley, McAteer, you know, those kind of players who basically would run their nuts off for him. You know, people like Keith Brannigan would do anything, will run their nuts off for him because it's Bruce Rioch. They'd do anything for him. But the problem was with that at Arsenal, you have to earn the respect of the players because they're internationals. Some of them are only more than you. Don't get me wrong, Bruce Rioch was a fantastic player at Derby, captain of Scotland in 1978 World Cup. Great player. But as a big name, they had George Graham. You got George Graham, Bruce Rioch. You got to prove yourself. I think Ian Wright put in a transfer request where Chelsea were in for him, and Harry Redknapp came in for him. That was it. It was his right was on the wrong. What he didn't do was that he worked without a contract. Bloody fool. Without a contract. Didn't even sign a contract that he was given because he wanted to see how he went. Trusting, dumb. But in essence, you know, David Dean was the alpha and omega, and he had Arsene Wenger lined up. But what David Dean did was very naughty. He was too close to the players, and he listened to players who told tales like Ian Wright. And Bruce Rioch was French connections.
True. Shane, I'll come to you next, mate. Same comment. I mean, you know, Rioch, he didn't really get the opportunity. Let's be fair. He could have. We don't know. We never know. We're never going to know what he could have achieved at the club. But it's, to me, a bit similar with Emery and Arteta. Yeah. Emery had one good season, one and a half seasons, should we say. And let's be honest, the first season he was here, he did all right. Didn't he? He did all right.
Yeah. It was another 5th place finish, I think, wasn't it? I could be wrong, but the thing with Emery was when they and I'll get on to Rioch in a second, but when these guys like to twist the narrative. They always say we were in the doldrums when Arteta came in. We were in 8th place, you know, and everything was falling apart. But we had just dropped to 8 that week, and I think we were only like 4 or 5 points off 4th. It wasn't. They make it sound a lot worse than it was, you know. But with Rioch, I was going to make the point that Kenny made, where falling out with Ian Wright was the big thing. And yeah, Ian Wright put in the transfer request. But apparently he was like showing Ian Wright videos of John McGinley and saying you need to make runs like this. And Ian Wright was like, come on, man. You know what I mean? You don't really take it. Bobby Robson said it when he had Ronaldo at Barcelona for that one season, that he'd be berating him to make such and such a run. And even though Ronaldo was only like 19, Ronaldo was like he'd do the opposite to him and make the run that he knows, and he'd score. And then Bobby Robson started to think, well, who am I to tell him how to make runs? He's making the best runs in the world. He should be telling me how a forward makes runs, sort of things. So you have to bit of give and take. But I think Rioch did come in, and like Kenny said, he forgot that he was at Arsenal. I think he forgot he was at Arsenal, and that you do have to earn the respect of these players. You know, that you have to come in, and yes, you have to lay down the law and say, I'm in charge now, but you also have to listen to them on certain things, because they've seen things that you haven't, you know, and they've been in Europe, and they've done all these sort of things. So he had come into a team that obviously was in turmoil. That was right at the end of Tony Adams drinking, which for any alcoholic, it's the worst time ever. You don't care about anything. You're just on literally on a downward spiral. And like Kenny said, you need your captain there, especially a captain like that who literally can control the dressing room. So it was pandemonium really that he came into. So in a way, he deserves credit for getting fifth and steadying the ship. And to me, that's what Arteta should have been doing when he came in. I think he should have been steadying the ship for 2 years and then move out and let a winning manager come in. So Rioch, yeah, he could be there, but I don't think it's fair to lump him in as the worst for the sheer reason that he didn't get time. I don't think it's fair if he didn't get the right amount of time. But if he had lost Ian Wright, you know what I mean, he probably would have lost Bergkamp then the next season, and maybe. But it's all, you know, ifs, buts, and maybes. I sort of think that maybe 2 to 3 years minimum, and then you can judge them to put them in if we're talking about the worst manager ever. Because my thing with Arteta is it's a lot to do with all of the outside stuff as well. It's just that the club just feels like it's in bits, and we're losing our young players and all the injuries. I mean, the injuries alone for me are enough to put Arteta there. What he's done to these players, to me, some of them is disgusting. I always say this is that Ben White will be, to me, Ben White is going to be like Jack Wilshere now. He's going to be injured all the time. All the time. Don't be surprised if you never see Tommy Yasu again. I think he could be one of those players who just has to retire through injury, Marco Van Basten style. But, you know, when you see Ben White being forced to play on a knee injury, when you see Odegaard are apparently getting painkiller injections before every game, don't be surprised if Rice is out now. He was injured when Arteta was asked today, what's the injury? Oh, we don't know yet, which to me means he's going for an operation. You'll see a few players going for operation. I'm getting a bit off topic, but I'm just bringing it back to the Rioch thing. That's why I'm saying that Arteta is the worst, because of what he's done, all the damage he's done. And this is long-term damage. The contracts, the players that we have on these big contracts, which are so bad when you compare it to the 2 that we had that were on big contracts, but they were Aubameyang and Ozil. You know, they could still do a job. They won him a cup. Aubameyang especially won him that cup. So to me, what Arteta's done makes him the worst. And yes, maybe Rioch would have gone down that road, who knows? But he finished 5th with a team that was in absolute turmoil. If people want to go back to that time, it was turmoil. Now, granted, we had just got to a champion or a Cup Cup final and lost to the Naeem goal, and we had won it the year before. But I'll finish on this because it's just another topic that you were on when you were giving out about XG, Jez. You want to get on about XG and stats and all this. That Cup Cup final, the last European Cup or the last European trophy we won, Parma absolutely battered us in that final. They battered us in that final. That was an onslaught, and we won it with that Alan Smith goal. So if you want to talk about stats, you can take them and you can walk away from me, because that was one of my proudest moments as an Arsenal fan. I was only a young lad, man. I was jumping around the house. Absolutely delighted. European trophy, Smith, Ian Wright suspended. You know, he was in tears when he got that booking against PSG in the semis, like Gaza in the World Cup. So you can talk about stats all you want. We had David Seaman, but I think he had did he have a broken rib for that final, or he had a fractured rib or something? I know he had an injection. Yeah. And he was just pulling off sides. They had Thomas Brolin, Zola, all these players of Spreedia. So you can take your stats, and yeah, we had won that. But yeah, Rioch, look, he wasn't given long enough, so we'll never know. But I still think he did a decent job. I think he did a decent job. For what he was given, he did a decent job.
I agree with you on that one. It's an interesting comment from Harvey here. Let's be serious. Our players were taking the piss out of Emery. I wonder if they'd be taking the piss out of him now. After when he left Arsenal and what he's won since in Europe. Interesting one, that one. I mean, if I know there's rumours they were taking the piss out of Emery for his accent, you know, and everything. Well, why don't they take the piss out of Arteta then? Fact. I'm going to wrap this up soon, gentlemen, because I know you've got things to do. And Anthony says, Jamie, if you remember, Bergkamp was having a bad time at Inter Milan. old had dried up and he wasn't happy playing in Serie A because of a negative football at times. Yeah, well,
they're playing him as a target man, Jez. They played him as a target man. Can you imagine that, playing Dennis Bergkamp as a target man? What a waste.
Yeah, true. Actually,
do they buy him and Wim Jonk, isn't it, from Ajax, both of them together?
Yeah. And then Wim Jonk went to Wednesday, I think, when we got Bergkamp, and they only paid like 2 million less.
Dennis.
This is an interesting one. Harvey's brought up. Nwaneri. What? Right, Kenny. I'll start with you on this one, man. What is going on here? What is happening?
It's simple. It's from a tactical point of view, and a couple of times he's dropped the ball when he's had games. Leicester City was a very good game. I thought he played really well, but there's other instances in the Odegaard position that he doesn't trust him enough, because he doesn't do what Odegaard does, is pressure in the front. But I think he cooked his goose against Brentford. When the first half, he did things in that first half where, if you look at it, he's on the right-hand side. He's right next to his manager, especially when we're kicking towards the clock end. And I could see his manager berating him and talking him into positions. And I said to my friend of mine after the Brentford game, he ain't going to get many minutes if this doesn't improve in the second half days. And it didn't happen. 15 minutes, he was hooked. And he's never really been seeing games since then. There's one thing about Mikel Arteta I've learned. He micromanages you to the extent that he tells you when to run, where to run, and when to make the pass. Trust me, you don't want a drinks break with him, because when there's a drinks break, you're not going there and stretching. You're going straight over to him to be coached again. And the same thing that happened with Ethan happened to Nicola Pepe, where even when he's coming on substitute, he was on this. Mick Arteta used to always go like that. If we're on a counter attack, or the team gets a counter attack, and he's not in position, so I think what will happen is that he is going to play Ethan when he feels that Ethan's ready to do the work off the ball, and I think that's what's killing him. If in Arteta's teams, or in Pep's teams, Amorim's teams, although Amorim, you'll find it next season, a real Amorim, and some players are going to get a shot next season at Man United. But with Amorim, with Pep and this guy, you don't run, you do not play. Don't matter how good you are, how much you do in the last third. They take that as a given. If you don't do it off the ball and the team is outnumbered and being counter-attacked, that's it. That's you gone from the team. That's you having to go back and working your nuts off in training to impress them again. Look at it. Trying to win the game today, and he brought in defenders rather than Ethan. All right, Sterling's cooked his goose. We know Sterling's not good enough. But Ethan's on his way up. Can't get a game. In saying that, Odegaard didn't actually have a better game, which basically was an average game, but it wasn't his usual shit show.
Zizi, Arteta in until the wheels fall off. Cry your old arse off. Drink a glass of milk and go to bed. I thought the wheels had already fallen off.
Yep.
But you're obviously looking at something else. And thanks for joining. But there you go. Nwaneri, Nwaneri, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's happening?
You know what? It's interesting listening to what Ken has said, because I kind of look at it kind of from a sort of emotional point of view, how Mikel Arteta is treating him, guys. So it's like, because with Saka being out and Odegaard being out, and we was calling for him to come in and whatnot, and I thought he sort of brought him in basically when Saka got injured, because up until that point when Odegaard was out, we're saying, well, we need a number 10. Ethan could come in and do that, but we didn't see it until push comes to shove. He brought in Ethan, and then obviously we knew what was going to happen. As soon as Saka gets back on his feet, that'll be Ethan on the pile. And so I was kind of looking at it from that point of view. But it's interesting what Kenny has said in terms of, if it's like Thierry Henry, when he didn't do what he was meant to do. I remember him talking about it when he was playing for Pep for Barcelona, and he scored. I think he scored the goal, or he set up the goal, but Pep wanted him to stay out wide, and he didn't. And he hooked him, yeah? So this is how ruthless these managers are that play these very system-based games. And if you don't fit the cog, so to speak, if you're not doing what you're meant to be doing, because he micromanages, as Ken said, because he micromanages you right down to the second, yeah, if you're not doing what you're meant to do, then you ain't going to see the games. It's simple as that. So I was kind of looking at it from the emotional point of view, but if you're looking at it from a tactical point of view, I get and understand why what Kenny's saying. Yeah, because you're at the games, Kenny, so you see what's going on, close up. You know what I mean? And if he's not doing what he's meant to be doing, as you rightly said, he ain't gonna get a game. But I was kind of looking at it from an emotional point of view to say, like, this guy's helped you out, and now you've just kind of thrown him on the scrap heap, and that's it. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of looking at it from both sides, and I can hear what Kenny's saying, but it's just a shame the way Mikel has treated him, up to this point. Because when you're trying to win a game, you decide that you're going to bring on defenders. Do you know what I mean? And really, you want to bring on your man, but if you don't trust him, that is just a shame that it's come to this. Do you know what I mean? And because it's so system based, and because he doesn't fit, that cog. If that cog doesn't fit, yeah, it's going to mess up everything that Arteta wants, because he wants the players to run all day long. And if Ethan is not doing it off the ball, on the ball, fantastic. But if he's not doing it off the ball, and the thing is, when we're watching it on TV, we don't get to really see what's really happening, because we're kind of more focused on the ball and where it is. Whereas if you're at the stadium, yeah, you're looking at players off the ball. And when I beat the games, it's interesting, because you're watching it on TV and watching it in the stadium's two different things. Because you can actually see what players are doing in their specific positions. So I think the way I looked at it, I kind of looked at it with rose-tinted glasses. You know what I mean? And I've been like calling for him to start, but sometimes, again, Kenny's sort of kind of taken off the blinkers of my eyes, and to kind of see it from both sides. Do you know what I'm trying to say? But I've still got that emotional attachment to say, oh, come on, Arteta, why are you doing this to my man? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, give him a chance at least. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens in the Newcastle game at home. I'm quite sure. I mean, the fact that he's going to bring on Sterling, I think I can't remember. Was it the Brentford game he started Sterling? I can't remember which game it was he started him. And I'm like, what's Ethan done? Do you know what I mean? Because does Sterling do the same thing off the ball? Not really. Yeah. So I don't know if it's down to stuff that's happened off the field as well. If you want to, I mean, rumours that, he was late for training and he's thrown his toys out the pram and all of that stuff. So there's so much, to this story. But look, I keep saying to myself, if I was Ethan, an agent, I'll be sort of maybe going to Bert and say, look, maybe it's time you moved on, because if you ain't going to really see much minutes, is an absolutely fantastic talent that we've got on that bench, and you don't want to kind of lose that. So it's either that, or if Bert can work his magic, give him the long rope to Mikel Arteta, or as I like to say, the cheese wire treatment, then maybe we will hopefully see something. But listen, it looks like Mikel's going to be with us for a little while still, and let's just hope he changes the way he plays next season, because the football that I've seen this season is just absolutely dross.
Yeah, that's yeah. Just before we wrap it up, I saw that Fabio Vieira is up for £30 million sold to sell. Shane, do you think this is Berta starting to put his foot on the gas to say, right, he ain't coming back, we're going to flog him, 30 million, take the money and run?
I hope so. Berta is a negotiator. It's what he does. Fabio Vieira, yeah, he didn't cut it. I don't think that the players get that thing. They used to get that when all the foreign players first started coming over in the 90s and stuff. They always got, it takes them a year to get used to it. You know what I mean? And that's gone now. And then probably rightly so, because the English game is a lot more like the continental game now than it was back then. It used to be a completely different game. Yes, it's still a bit quicker and stuff like that, but Berta needs to clean house. But the problem is that the squad is so small already that if we start getting rid of these players, then we have to do like what Forest did when they came up and signed 14, 15 players, and it just doesn't work. It's never worked. Forest nearly went down. Let's get it right. They're doing great now, But if they had gone down, that would have been seen as one of the most disastrous decisions ever to sign all those players, because they would have been trying to offload them now for next to nothing. So even if you look at our squad now, there's 24 players registered. We still have the second highest wage bill in the league with 24 players, where Chelsea have 30 players registered and their wages are less. So Bertha has so much work to do, but you also have to be careful because, but the thing is, even if we have a big squad, like we had these players last year, we had Fabio Vieira last year, we had Reece Nelson, and we had Emile Smith-Rowe, and we had Nketiah. He still didn't rotate them in, ever. So people are saying now, oh, the reason that he's getting these hamstring injuries is because he doesn't have the players to rotate them. Okay, but when he did, he still didn't rotate them. So it doesn't really matter to me whoever we bring in. If he finds his set 11, Arteta will just flog them until they start dropping, which is because it's what he does. So yeah, for Fabio Vieira, I'd have him out the door. If you can get money for him, get him out. I think Lokonga is going to come back. I don't know if his contract's coming up, but I'm pretty sure that Mallorca, whoever he is, hasn't triggered it. Tavares is going. I think Lazio triggered his contract, so he's gone. But I mean, Zinchenko, we need to get rid of him. Tierney's gone. Partey's going to go now. If we're getting this Subamende lad, I think it's insanity to get a 6 in when we already have Partey there. But listen, it's Arsenal we're talking about. Jorginho's gone. I think Trossard has his eye on Saudi. And the rumours about Saliba are picking up again. If I was Bertha, I'd say, listen, can you give me one more year to Saliba? Then I'd get in someone like your man Dean Howson off Bournemouth and say, you won't start this year. You'll be back up to Saliba, but he is leaving next year. So you will be starting in. We just need to have you in, learn off him, blah, 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 all that. But this summer for me, I dread to think of it. I dread to think of it because, yes, we're going to sign a couple of players, but we're going to lose so many to a squad that is already really, really weak. And then you have to remember that the likes of Nwaneri probably will leave. I hope it's on a loan. I hope he goes on loan to Dortmund, somewhere like that, where they'll build a team around him. But if he has to leave full time, I wouldn't be mad at him. I wouldn't blame him. One bit would I blame him, because that kid is the type of player that you should be building your team around. If he was at Barcelona, he'd play most games. He'd play most games at Barcelona, and he'd be balling out. So Bertha, come in, get rid of the dead wood that you can. I don't think he'll take cheap on them, but he'll know what price to get and what to do, and he's a tough negotiator. But he is dealing with damaged goods. Let's get it right. A lot of these players have got to be very hard to sell for their wages and for how bad their performances have been under Arteta. But if he can get rid of a few players like that, great. Let's get rid of them and move forward. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's very true, man. Big up Lawrence from Los Angeles. Hope you're well, my friend. Nothing will change, says Anthony. Yeah, well, that's a fact. Before we wrap it up, Kenny Ken, Marino. Sorry. Do you think this is his influence to get rid of Fabio Vieira and the dross? But, Kenny, if he gets 30 million for him, I think that's a good deal. But we need to bring stuff in, because we can't keep getting rid of players, not buying the players we need. We need that striker. Go on.
Well, if you're relying on getting the French players out, you're not going to get the players you need, unfortunately. Because remember, his job description isn't to get players in. His job description is to deal with player contracts, as well as dealing with player exits, and then getting players in. Arsenal have to make sacrifices. If you want an avalanche of players coming in, you've got to get rid of a player. Last year was just a token gesture. I don't remember Smith-Rowe pushing for a place. I certainly don't remember Eddie pushing for a place. And Reece Nelson's been the next big thing for 6 years, and he's only on loan. So, and then Fabio is only on loan. They're fringe players. You really want to be able to spend the big money. You've got to balance the books, and he's going to have to make a sacrifice. That's what's been mentioned in the paper, with the IT case, to finally realise what his job is. And I'm just saying right now, you will get players in, but a big name has to go, whether you like it or not.
Fact. Nolsky. Do you think this potential sale is the first thing that Berta's looking at in his new role? Getting him out?
I would hope so. I mean, as I say, Bert has got his work cut out, you know, potentially because, you know, you've got so many players, obviously down to their last weeks, we say, in terms of their contract situations, and, you know, getting players that are on high wages, and then you've got the fringe players that are coming back. You know, all these guys are, you know, are paid well, and it's whether, you know, we're going to get decent money. So I think 30 million, if that is the case for Fabio Vieira, we'll almost break even, because I think we spent something like 30 odd million on him. I think
38,
it was.
wasn't it?
Was it 38? Yeah, I can't remember the exact figure, but at least we'll get back a decent amount of money off of that, based on he hasn't really done anything for Arsenal this season. So that's not too bad, because, to be honest, maybe if we didn't have Berta, I don't know if we'd be able to even sell this guy or probably get any kind of decent money for him. Then, you know, you got Lokonga coming back, and he's been quite injury prone. So, you know, again, Berta's going to have to work his magic in terms of trying to flog him as well. Nuno Tavares looks like he's going to be off. You got Marquinhos, you know, and then, you know, Trossard, you know, what sort of kind of money we're going to get for him. You know, hopefully, if he is going to Saudi, try and see whether we can get some, I don't know, probably 15, 20 mil for him, hopefully. The Partey situation, with, you know, with this Zubimendi deal coming in, as the 6, I still feel that we need another midfielder, a proper number 8. It's a pity that, you know, I know, you know, Kenny Ken with the situation with Declan Rice, where, you know, he feels he plays best, but we need to be looking at that midfield area and making sure that we've got a decent backup, because with the amount of games that we're going to be playing next season, you know, I mean, we need to know that we've got proficient players in there. Look, it looks like Moreno is going to be the one that stays. I can't see us getting rid of him. But is he strong enough for our midfield? Not for me. But Berta, for me, has to work his magic. He has the experience because he's done it with Atletico. But it's really about, as Kenny Ken said, it's really about, you know, the players' contracts, you know, sorting out whether Saliba can, you know, stay another year or what, because, you know, once June comes now, that's the 2-year start, the 2-year countdown. Same for Mangalese, same for Saka. I think Saka, that shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, we need to get some, and that striker situation as well. Do we need to sell before we can buy? That's the big question. That's the big question. And what sort of money we're going to get for these players? So it's not going to be easy, even though we've got him in. It's not going to be an easy task because of what, you know, Mikel Arteta and Edu have done in the last 5 years or so. You know, bringing in bang average players and paying over the odds for them when it comes to, you know, their wages and you know, their fees. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's gonna be a big summer, an interesting summer. Are we gonna get our targets? And we need to make sure that we have got a decent sized squad going into next season. We can't make the same mistake like this season. We have to make sure that we have a decent sized squad going in there and players of quality. Whether we're going to be able to do that, I don't know. So it's going to be tough. But, you know, we know the narrative. We're hearing it already from top gooners that, you know, Berta needs to act now. He needs to hit the ground running, you know, because he has the experience. So if anything does go wrong this summer, the fingers are going to be pointing at him, not Arteta. You know, whereas last season before, you know, nobody was pointing the finger. You know, Arteta and Edu were doing what they needed to do, and unfortunately, they didn't come up with the goods. So now all of a sudden, now it's Berta's fault. Yeah, and we can see that that's what's going to happen. If, you know, those signings that we get don't sort of hit the ground running. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it at the moment.
I think that Berta's going to be quite strong. But anyway, gentlemen. Shane, you've got to bounce out.
I do indeed.
Go over to Shane's channel, give him the support and love. I think you're doing a match reaction in a minute.
Yeah. I'm going to get that done, and then I'm on with Carl then later on. And then I do the full Irish breakfast every morning at 10:30. That's become a regular thing now. And I'll be doing my World Cup video again during the week, and lots of stuff. I'm sure I'll be on with Lee, and I'll be on with Aaron tomorrow night. And listen, Jez, as always, an absolute pleasure, man. Whenever you need me, I'm more than proud to come on this channel. It was one of my favorite channels out there. If you haven't already subscribed or liked, please do, because without the likes of Jez and Kenny and Normski and DJB and stuff like that, the history of this club would be nearly forgotten, man, with the more modern fan. You know what I mean? So, cheers, Rich, you're a legend. But yeah, listen. Thanks so much, Jez, for having me on. Absolute pleasure. Normski, always a pleasure. Kenny, pleasure as always. On the chat, big up to you all. Thanks so much. Have a good day, people.
He's gone. He's gone, unfortunately. Kenny Ken, as always, tomorrow night, Monday, we'll be on.
Obviously, it's good to see. It's got to do something. Normski, we talk a lot in the group chat as well.
Yeah,
it's good to do some shows. I know I have been watching you on many emergency meetings. Bloody hell, it's like that program in the 70s. You know, the American there was an American one, the English version, General Hospital. Which was so bad.
Yeah,
we were so bad. Like, instead of having match reactions, we have emergency meetings. So
that's it.
Yeah, it's like General Hospital, but yeah, I've seen you on many of them.
True, very true. I remember that General Hospital. Jesus Christ!
Do you remember that? General Hospital?
Yeah,
no, it was an ATV and Lou Grade, one of Lou Grade's creations.
Yeah, ATV,
mate. I haven't heard that for a long time. Oh my God!
Exactly, Lou Grade, Jesus of Nazareth on ATV. Crossroads, everything.
Yeah.
Lou Grade.
Crossroads.
Those were the good old days.
Space Train 99. Remember that program?
That theme
Those were the
tune.
good old days, mate.
Do you remember Crossroads theme tune was written by Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God. Anyway.
I remember it. Yeah. Benny. Was it Benny? Was it Benny in there? Remember Benny?
Yeah, Benny. Oh yeah, the
Benny in it.
With the
when the old woolly hat, what it was, a woolly hat, what it?
Yeah.
Oh,
hello, Miss Diane. Miss Diane.
Miss Diane. That's it. Yeah, God. Yeah, Jesus. Anyway, gentlemen,
the moving scenery outside. Remember the moving scenery outside.
The walls used to move in the hotel.
Very low budget. Very low budget.
Very low budget. Yeah. But it was a great show. It was a great show. I must admit, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, very 60s, 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up. Kenny Ken, shout out, please, where we can find you.
I'm at Instagram at KennyKen1972, and I'm just going to enjoy my Sunday and just look forward to what brings us to the end of the season. Yeah,
fair play. Yeah, Normski, mate, as always, pleasure to have you on. As always,
great, mate.
Mate, shout your channel out.
Yeah, Normski TV. A Wednesday I do a What's Going On podcast with a couple of my mates, different, from Chelsea, Man United, you name it. We have a bit of a banter on that channel, doing that stream at 6:30 on a Wednesday. So come and check me out there. Also, later on, I should be going on Gun Down. So I'll probably be linking up with Shane again later on. Just kind of doing the same for you do, going from channel to channel, doing emergency meetings, as you well know, been on a few of those. And tomorrow I'll be on with Aaron talks football with DJB. We'll be looking at the accessories and dressing up some people with the new merch. So I'm looking forward to that show tomorrow. And I'll do the odd match reaction. I didn't see the game in its entirety today, but I will do a very, very short match reaction regarding it. And every now and again I'll do a very important, when it comes to those very important games like the PSG watch-alongs and stuff like that, I do those, but I don't do them as often. So I only do it for like special games. So, but probably for next season that probably won't be much because I don't know how we're gonna get on. But most of all, thanks for having me on, Jez. I really appreciate it, mate. It's great. I think it's the first time I've been on screen with Big Kenny Ken. But we always talk in the chat. We've got a chat that we talk in that and that. So I said I ain't missing this opportunity. So big up to the chat and everybody. And man, look forward to seeing guys come and check me out on Wednesday evening.
I bring you brothers together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
I'm good at this.
Please do.
Yeah, man.
Good at it. You know what I mean?
All right.
The next stream tomorrow will be with Lee, Kenny, I think DJB, myself as well, on the Monday night podcast.
Matty.
Tuesday night, 6:30, will be part 2
of George Graham.
George Graham's years. We're going to be going back to the 1991 incredible season. That will be 6:30 Tuesday. So come and join us on that.
You know what we've got to talk about. Although it hurts us to talk about it, we have to mention Rune Hauger.
Who?
We have to mention Rune Hauger. You know, the briefcase. You know, the Paul Lidison deal and the John Jensen deal. We have to do it. Brombu in the European Companies Cup, when basically normally the director, only a few directors come to the match, but the whole directors came to that game in 94, 95. They wanted to know.
Remind me about it, Tony. Remind me about it, because I get focused on other stuff and I forget about things like that.
No, you've got to talk about that because that's important with George's reign. The Brombu, the directors all came to that like I said, game in the European Companies Cup, and they wanted to know, where did all the money go?
Well, you remind me on that one.
Yeah, mate. Kenny, I don't know how you do it, mate. I don't know how you remember all this stuff.
Hey, whilst you're going at club at the places like Benji's and you know, like your Fifth Avenues or your hombres, I was studying for exams.
And in a few weeks' time will be the end of season football quiz. So if anybody wants to come and challenge, Normski, if you want to come and listen,
mate. I ain't getting shaped up on that, mate. I'll send my AI twin. Yeah, the AI guy will come on and do it.
I can still beat him.
Yeah, he's been beaten once. He's only ever been beaten once.
Wow.
Shane Gooner. No, twice. I beat him by league gunner by a point, and who's
Anthony beat you?
No, not Anthony beat me.
My good friend
Cole, the
Walsh.
guy from the Republic, beat me.
Wow.
Anyway, gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up.
See you guys soon.
Thank you as always. It's been a great show, great chat, and we'll see you all very later. I'll do the outro and catch you, gentlemen, another day. Big up, guys.
Well, I'll see you soon. See you tomorrow.
Okay, buddy. Take care.